In this video, we are looking at some great deer-resistant perennials that are going to add mid to late summer interest to your garden, plants that are at their peak in mid to late summer. So the first one that we're looking at, this is Allium Serendipity. It is a blue foliage sport out of Allium Millennium. We found that with that sport, the foliage tends to hold up a little bit better. What makes it so deer resistant? Well, it is an allium. It's in the ornamental onion family. So it has a really strong flavor to it. You could actually eat this because it is an onion. But the deer don't like it. It's not at the top of their menu. So if you put this in your garden, they're going to leave it alone. What you're going to get out of this allium is a perennial that wakes up early in spring, going to be a nice kind of grassy texture foliage plant until we get to this point, mid to late summer, where it's covered in all these golf ball sized purple flowers. And once those flowers are done, they're going to leave behind perfectly spherical seed heads that should still be standing up and give you some fall and winter interest as well. Being an onion, there is the chance that if the conditions are right, it could get a little weedy in your yard. So if you're noticing that, then you can avoid that problem by just cutting this back in fall and removing those seed heads. So that is Allium Serendipity. Another great perennial option, this really just covers a whole class if you're looking for deer resistance. Ornamental grasses tend to be also at the bottom of a deer's desired dining menu. So this is one of my favorites. This is Panicum, Prairie Winds, Niagara Falls. Named Niagara Falls for that cascading blue foliage. A little bit atypical of a Panicum or a switchgrass, which usually has a much more upright habit, but Niagara Falls has that cascading blue foliage. And then you can see we're just coming into flower right now with all of these seed heads that really fill out and are a nice accent to the top of the plant. So if you're looking for a really sturdy native grass in that 4-foot range, Panicum, Niagara Falls. Need a perennial that's going to give you some size and some deer resistance, then Buddleia Pink Cascade is going to be the garden buddy that you need. So this does kind of fall into that weird in-between space of is it a perennial, is it a shrub? It does have a bit of a woody structure, but here's Zone 6 West Michigan. We do see these die back to the ground, almost all the way back to the ground every year. So that puts it into this category of subshrub or woody perennial. If you're growing these in southern zones, then you're not going to see as much dieback. You'll get a little bit more size out of these as well. So we have Pink Cascade, which has a nice light apple blossom pink flower, sterile, so they don't tend to seed around. We have not observed seed set on these plants. But if you're looking for something a little bit darker, then we also have Violet Cascade, which is a nice deep violet color. And the common name on these is butterfly bush. So if you're looking to feed butterflies and other pollinators and not those pesky deer, then butterfly bushes are a great option for your garden. And here we have Artemisia silver lining. So this plant is just flushed out again after getting its summer haircut. Excellent silver plant to line the front of your borders or to fill and creep in between other larger perennials. So this is got a fairly coarse texture to the leaves. So sometimes you do see a little bit of deer browsing on this, but it's definitely not on the top of their menu. They usually like something that feels a little bit more tender when it's newly emerging, and this comes up with a little bit more texture. So this is going to be great in full sun gardens, and it tolerates a wide variety of soils. So whether you're in a well-drained location, that's probably where it prefers to be, but it will also do very nicely in heavier clay soils where most perennials struggle. If you're looking for a perennial with North American native roots, we have Amsonia, also fitting into that finely textured one. This is Amsonia String Theory, which has a really nice stringy foliage. Not quite as fine as Amsonia Hubrichtii or Arkansas Blue Star. A little bit broader foliage than that, but overall gives you just about the same feel in the garden. Does not tend to be touched by deer. The leaves, tough for them to get a good mouthful. So generally left alone. And then a characteristic of Amsonia, when you crack the stem, you might notice that there is a white kind of milky sap inside of it, similar sort of to if you were to open up a Asclepias tuberosa or butterfly weed, and that acts as an irritant to deer, so it also tends to really put it down their menu as well, because just as sometimes that can be unpleasant to get on your skin, it's also prohibitive for deer to be browsing in your garden. So this perennial has prairie roots, which means that it does well in full sun, high competition environments, does well in heavy clay soils, will be a little slower to establish in the heavier clay, but you are going to get a perennial that's incredibly durable in your garden, has a very deep root structure, going to have low moisture needs once it is established. You might have heard me mention that this plant is called Blue Star. That is the common name, and that is because of the clusters of star-shaped blue flowers that it gets in mid to late spring. Right now in full summer, we don't have to deadhead it to get rid of those flowers. The plant kind of naturally just grows up and over them and buries those seeds within the plant itself, so there's no maintenance there. And then if you're familiar with Amsonia hubrichtii, you know that it gets a fantastic shade of golden orange, golden yellow come fall, and Amsonia string theory does the same thing, so you are going to get that brilliant fall color as well. So great perennial that's going to be up early, deer resistant, tolerating tough soils. Overall, just a great one to add to your garden. Another perennial, if you're looking for something that's going to give you interest in the shade, this one does bloom in spring. This is Pulmonaria Pink-a-Blue. So it's going to be up early in spring, going to look good for you early in the year, but this nice dappled foliage is going to fill in after those flowers, and it is going to look great for the rest of the season. And our Pulmonaria are incredibly vigorous and have really good disease resistance, so you can see even though we've had an exceptionally humid summer, we are still green and clean into August, and this is going to continue to look good into the fall months. So if you're looking for a perennial that's going to be a great space filler, deer resistant because of that hairy texture to the leaves, then that's one to add to your garden. Sedges have edges. This is a sedge or a Carex. The variety is Everillo in the EVERCOLOR series. So this one has a really nice golden yellow color to it, has that grass-like texture, and it's going to just look really stunning pretty much year-round in your garden. This one is evergreen, so it's usually helpful to clean it up in spring, but that's not entirely necessary. It's just going to keep going and looking great regardless of what the weather does. Another grass, this is Sporobolus Gone with the wind. It is a selection of the native prairie drop seed. So another prairie grass, so you're going to get a lot of that really good tolerance of heat and heavy soils. With this particular variety or this particular grass, you get a really fine texture from the very, very narrow foliage all the way up to these very delicate seed heads. So if something like Panicum, Niagara Falls is too big for you and you need something that's going to be smaller, more delicate within your garden, then I definitely recommend for deer resistance something like this prairie drop seed Gone with the wind. And our last variety that we're going to look at, our last deer resistant perennial, is Lagerstroemia or crepe myrtle. This is Barista cherry mocha, so named for that cherry red flower color and that kind of mocha green foliage color. So this also, similar to the Buddleia or butterfly bushes, falls into that sub-shrub woody perennial category. For us here in Zone 6 West Michigan, they die all the way back to the ground each year. So this is 1 year of growth on this collection of 3 plants. Forms a really nice small shrub-like perennial in your garden. If you're growing these in southern zones, then particularly with cherry mocha, you are going to not see nearly as much dieback, and we've seen them hanging out in that 7-foot range in height. So if you're looking for a really nice deer-resistant perennial, this might be the one for you. So that's 10 deer-resistant perennials. We hope that this helps you keep your garden safe and browsing free.